Hello, Hodgepodge Mama here with part two of my homeschooling video. In my first part, I discussed why, what I hope to what I hope to avoid by home educating my daughter, and here I want to talk about specifically what I hope to accomplish by educating her at home. First of all, academically speaking, I want to be able to provide for her a more well-rounded coverage of the subjects. So I feel like a lot of the subjects, there's like this very strict list of facts, really, list of things that kids are supposed to learn, and you just kind of study those individual facts, and then you regurgitate them on tests, and then you move on to more facts, and there's really never any time to explore any one of those details that might tickle your fancy in depth. Because if you do that, then you end up having to not move on schedule. I think that's crap. I think teaching to the test or measuring one's knowledge, one's education based on test results is total crap. One of the things I hope to avoid is this testing, because I don't think that's a true measure of the education. A bunch of facts is not knowledge. I got good grades all through school, and I am sad to say that most of the stuff I don't remember. I don't understand. I wouldn't be able to understand it if I looked at it now. I vaguely remember doing those, assignments or talking about those things, but it never became internalized. And yet, obviously, I was able to regurgitate most of those facts on tests because I got good grades. I wasn't a straight A student, but a C was considered a disaster in my family. So that didn't help. I don't feel well educated because I had good grades. Okay, so well-rounded. Also, I feel it's so sad and pathetic how many American high school graduates don't know squat about world history, American history, current events, geography. It just, to me, that's basic knowledge. You have to have some sort of grasp of the world that you live in. You have to know where your country is in relation to other countries. Maybe not just like memorizing the capitals of individual countries. It doesn't really even matter if you remember the capitals of various countries, but you have to have kind of an idea of what countries are where and what role they've played with each other over time. Basic geography, I can't tell you how many times people would ask me how long it takes to drive from Virginia or from Maryland, depending on where I was living, to Poland. If you're wondering, well, what's wrong with that question, then you are one of these sad cases that doesn't know basic geography, okay? Sorry, that just really irks me the wrong way. Basic geography, basic history, a strong, very strong foundation in that. Not a whole bunch of facts memorized to the test, but like a strong foundation of the basics. I feel that's way more important than 10 times as many facts just regurgitated in short-term memory. Anyway, so that's the first thing I want to accomplish, is a solid foundation of just the world that we live in. Second, I want to incorporate our family languages. I've done a video on the fact that we're a multilingual family. So by home educating, we are able to have discussions and ask questions and watch resources like movies or read books on the various subjects that we're learning, but in our target languages, so in Polish, in Spanish, not just all in English. So we're able to do that very easily, very fluidly. And so we're not only learning the content of the subject, like say science or history or whatever, but we're also I don't know what's the word. I lost the word. We're also kind of reinstilling the importance of the language, right? Of the target language. Furthermore, and I discussed this in more detail in the multilingual videos, but being able to read about the world in another language automatically gives you access to learning about the world from another perspective. You simply do not get that in a strictly monolingual education, because you're only getting the perspective of that one culture or that one language. So that's another reason, the language. Also, since there won't be wasted time, right, in our school day, I talked about wasted time as one of the things I hope to avoid. Since there won't be wasted time, there will be plenty of time to add subjects, maybe um, either things like world religion, for instance. That's something that's not generally covered on the typical public school curriculum that I'm very interested in. And I think that plays into understanding the world. I think that's something that is helpful for a person to know basics about the various world religions. And other extracurricular, what's called extracurricular activities like music lessons, dance class, sports, all these things that kids are kind of exhausted from being in school all day and then having homework and having all these activities, and then they finally pass out at night. There's no time to just sit and reflect. There's no time to pursue anything more in depth that interests you, because you're so sick of learning. Like, kids learn to, or people learn to have an aversion to learning. They're like, no, to learn means to do stuff you don't want to do. So when you finally do get a little bit of time on the weekend or spring break or summer vacation or whatever, the last thing you want to do is learn something, which is so sad, because then you end up not becoming a lifelong learner, right? But since we won't have all this wasted time, the core academic subjects, should be covered in a matter of, I think the average homeschool day is 4 hours. Most of everything that is done during the entire school day in public school can be done in 4 hours, without rushing, without cramming, without cutting corners, because again, you don't have all that wasted space, time. So there'll be a lot of things that our daughter will be able to pursue because, oh, she read something, or we discussed something in one of the kind of curricular topics that we touched on, and she wants to know more about it. We have plenty of time to do that. There's no reason to, and we could, because we have the flexibility in home educating, we could, postpone whatever we were planning on doing next in order for her to pursue whatever interested her. But because we don't have all that wasted space, we don't necessarily have to do that, right? We can continue on with our plan, and still give her the plenty of time without feeling that, fearing that she's going to be burned out, pursuing things that interest her or doing activities that interest her. Also, what I consider well-rounded education is not all lecture and reading. I mean, I want to go to a lot of field trips, museums, hands-on projects, going to hear live music. I mean, these are all learning experiences that we'll be able to participate in, because there won't be that wasted space, wasted time. Why do I keep saying wasted space? Wasted time. Okay. Also, so those are the academic reasons for wanting to homeschool. There's other reasons. Maintaining a very tight-knit relationship with my daughter, that attachment. That thing that some people are telling me, maybe it's time to send her to preschool so that she's not so attached to me. Different values. I actually want to be attached to my daughter, okay? I actually want her to think, what would my mom want me to do, right? I actually want my daughter to think about, would this be something that would please my parents, or would this be something that would disappoint my parents? Like, if we start pushing our kids away at earlier and earlier ages, when they become teenagers, why are we acting surprised that, oh, they don't listen to us, they don't care what we want? Well, I'm sorry, but you didn't establish a strong enough foundation for them to care. Why would they care? You taught them very early on that it's not important to be a tight-knit family. So to me, that, and when I say tight-knit, I realize other people might be using it in a different way. I just mean like a strong attachment, spending a lot of time together. It's so sad that how so many parents, they have these kid jokes where, oh, finally, the summer vacation is over, everybody's going back to school. I'm sorry, why did you have kids then? Or, oh, they're 18, thank goodness, they're moving out on their own, they're going off to college, finally some time for myself. Why did you have kids? I just do not, that boggles my mind. I can't imagine. Can you imagine saying stuff like that about your spouse? Oh, finally, Monday's here, my husband's finally going to work, I don't have to listen to his butt all weekend. What? Seriously. So no, I want to spend that time with my daughter, and I will be able to, because we're going to be learning together side by side, and not just at home. It doesn't mean literally in the four walls or however many walls you got of your home, right? But that's just means during in family life. And also our entire family will benefit from the freedom that we have of home educating. Anytime it's convenient for my husband to take off time for work and take a trip, we just go. We just go. We can either take our educational materials with us, or we can just pick them up when we come back, because we do plan on continuing year round. So there's no reason to, oh, I have to get permission from the school to take my kid out of class because there's some event at a museum or something that we want to do that we think would contribute to her education, but that would mean she would miss a science test that happens to be scheduled on for the same time frame. We don't have any of that mess. We have the freedom to, when something is available in the community is more important than the arbitrary schedule and curriculum of the school system. So we've touched a little bit on socialization. Let me try to real quickly discuss socialization, because the first question everybody asks is, well, aren't you worried about socialization? I'm worried about your kids' socialization in public school. Look at what people are learning, how they're being socialized. Who is socializing in public school? Peers are socializing each other. Kids are learning how to be from each other. They don't have adult role models. They have peer role models. Is that really who you want teaching your kids what values are important? Come on. So I've already mentioned extracurricular activities. Obviously, as far as peer interaction, I do think it's important for my daughter to have peer interaction. She already has a friend that she sees on a regular basis, a friend who is her age, right? That it doesn't take, you don't need to have a classroom full of, I don't have 30 very close friends. Some people have a lot of friends. I don't think that's necessary to be properly socialized. So you don't need a classroom full of peers in order to have friends, in order to be socialized, right? So like I said, we'll expose her to sports and music and lessons and classes to the library and co-op and church and all those things. There's kids everywhere. There's actually kids everywhere, not just all in school. Also, she'll be, we're hoping to put her in a Saturday school through the Polish parish, local Polish parish, where she will be with other kids who speak Polish. And she will be learning both religion and Polish history. So that'll be a great, not only socialization, but also great reinforcement of the Polish language and a little bit of religion and history, like I mentioned earlier, from another perspective, not just the English language perspective. So a lot of benefits to that. Also, there are homeschooling co-ops that we plan to hook up with and plug in with, where she can have friends who are also being home educated. That's going to be important because they will be sharing those experiences. And also we want to make friends with like-minded families as well. And also finally, the bottom line is that my daughter is not going to, like I said, not going to learn how to be an independent woman from her peers. Her peers are not independent women. Okay, her peers are going to be other little boys and girls, and then other teenagers, and that is no way to socialize a person into adulthood. You cannot hope that your child will grow up to be a responsible adult if they are surrounded by equally immature and irresponsible peers all day long for 12, 13 years. And then magically they turn 18 and then poof, they're just supposed to be adults and know how to behave. Not going to happen. Through home education, through plugging into different community events and classes and experiences, she's going to be socialized with a mixed age. You know, like in real life, people that are older than her, people that are younger than her, people that are the same age as her, people from different walks of life. And she'll be able to find mentors, other adults other than just mom and dad, right? Adults other than just the teachers that were assigned to her grade level for those subjects. She'll be able to develop mentoring relationships with adults based on her passions, based on her interests. That's the kind of socialization that we're talking about, and that's what I want for my daughter. So I see we're out of time. I want to thank you for listening, and I definitely plan on going into much more detail as the years go by. So thanks for listening.